People of the internet, welcome back to another video. It is I, Don Thomas, back in here with another one. As always, folks, the likes, the comments, the subscribes are all greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for the support on this channel. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's topic, folks. Happy Valentine's Day, of course. You celebrate. Saw a video. Comes from Greatness Clips with Lewis Howes, in which he's having a conversation with Jay Shetty. They entitled the video, Jay Shetty shares the biggest lies holding you back from finding love. We've been hearing about this a lot. Seems like there's piss in the dating pool, as they say. People are struggling to find healthy companionship. People are struggling to find love in a simple date nowadays. Men are not approaching women. Women are not finding any luck with men. Men say there's nothing good out here. Women are saying there's nothing good out here. I want to watch this clip, see if there's any insight as to how we can learn about the biggest lies that are holding us back from finding love. Of course, I'll share my thoughts. I encourage you guys to share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let's get into it.
What do you think are the biggest lies that hold people back from finding love and keeping them single? What do you think that is?
That's such a good question. And there's so many, but one of the ones that stands out to me is one of the biggest lies that we've been told about love is that you'll find it when you're least expecting it. You'll find it when you're not looking. And I don't know anything that you find in the world when you're not looking in that direction. You can't find your keys if you're not looking for them. You can't find your phone if you're not looking for it. You can't find your passport. Like all the things we lose on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, you don't just find it when you least expect it. And I think we apply that to love because there's a romanticism to it. It's kind of like, oh, I want that mystery of like, we just bumped into each other and I wasn't ready and I wasn't prepared and it happened. And by the way, if that happened to you, that's beautiful. Like, that's awesome. I love that for you. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I think that lie keeps people single because it stops people from making effort. Effort working on themselves, effort working on finding the right person, effort on creating love. And I think the reason why that lie keeps people single the most, and I was talking about this with a friend just yesterday, we were talking about the idea of how you don't stop loving when you move in. You don't stop loving when you get married. You don't stop loving when you've been together for 10 years and you're celebrating an anniversary. It takes constant effort. So now we're saying, oh, well, it's not going to take effort to find love, which means we're training ourselves to think it's not going to take effort to stay in love. And I think that's an unhealthy idea.
That's an interesting perspective.
Pause it right there. Let's pause it right there, folks. Very interesting perspective, man. Very interesting perspective. Of course, again, the video's entitled Jay Shetty, of course, who's the man that was just speaking, shares the biggest lies holding you back from finding love. And one of the things he just mentioned, of course, as you heard him there, is saying that we think love is just going to fall in our lap and it'll come to me when I'm not looking for it, right? And I like that analogy of what he said, you know, name something that came to you when you weren't looking for it. If you lost your phone, you thought if you weren't looking for it, it was just going to show up. Nah, you got to be intentional about, hey, where are my last steps? Let me retrace my steps, this and the other, And I feel like that same method applies to finding love. And I'll be completely honest. I guess it also depends on the type of mindset that you're in, what's your attitude and your feelings toward the concept of love and finding relationships. Because I'll speak for myself personally. I think I have adopted that mindset subconsciously, as he mentioned it, of course, in that video, in saying that I do feel like paths will align organically, how they should naturally, and I shouldn't have to do too much to, you know, stray outside of my own course of action and finding that. And I think that's true and it's not true. Of course, you heard his point as well too. I think love, especially again, if we're you know, talking about courtship and relationships and finding a lifelong partner, I don't think that's something you can leave up to a whim. I think there does have to be a level of intentionality when doing so. I think my mindset, of course, is just more so feeling like, all right, if I'm operating in my own natural organic state, then the things that will naturally, you know, it might sound woo-woo, I guess you could say, but if I'm every day waking up, operating in my best version and going about my day in and day out, of course, whatever the case, I feel like naturally things will align, right? People, opportunities, just relationships dynamics, whatever the case is. I think people will align when you're quote unquote doing the work, when you're focused on self, right? But I would admit that, kind of hearing him say it as well too, like, nah, I think you do have to be a little bit more intentional if this is something that you actually want to happen, right? So that's maybe going to be taking more risks, right? That's going to be, as I always say as well too, working on yourself first. But it also means, okay, getting out of the house. It also means, of course, if you're a dating app person, I'm not necessarily a dating app person, but if you're a dating app person, updating that profile and talking to people, right? I don't feel like, falling in love or finding at least a compatible partner, something that's going to happen on a whim. It's going to happen when you're actively doing the things for yourself, and then within, your realm that can actually attract that type of energy, if that makes sense. So watch a little bit more. Let's get a little bit of insight. Of course, very interesting topic. The lies that are holding you back from finding love.
And give me some feedback on this, because I want to dive into that a little more. I love it. I think it's all about the context of it, because when I met Martha, I was like, I don't want a relationship. I was saying to myself, I'm not looking for a relationship. But it didn't mean I wasn't open.
Right.
Correct.
Right? I was open to finding the right relationship.
Yeah.
And I think it was like when you're ready and clear that you don't want the wrong relationships anymore, and you're working on yourself, and you're finding yourself, you're developing yourself, then it's clearer the right person when you see them, right?
Yes.
When you're approaching them, when you're out in the world and taking action, you're going to attract a healthier version of the person you want to be with.
Yeah, and that's also, you bumped into someone, but you built love out of it.
Of course.
So you didn't find love when you weren't looking for it. You found a person,
Yes.
but you still had to build love actively.
100%.
And I think that's what I want to discourage the idea that it doesn't take effort, that love doesn't take action, that love doesn't need intention, that love doesn't need working on yourself. I want to discourage that idea, because I think the idea that it perpetuates is love is going to find you fully formed, fully thought about, perfect, and you don't have to do anything.
Right.
And I think when you have that
That's
mindset
true.
about anything in life, whether it's love, success, happiness, joy, purpose, greatness, there's nothing else in the world that works that way. So why are we going to, and maybe that's unpopular opinion, and maybe everyone in the comment section is going to be really mad at me, but I'm just saying that finding love takes effort, keeping love takes effort. Both of them take effort.
Yeah.
Pause it right there. Very valid point, man. Very valid point. Again, going back to the gentleman, I think Lewis Howes, when he was saying that, he was focused, whatever he had going on. He didn't have intentions of finding love. It kind of just happened. I guess he was, guilty of saying, he was going about his business. I guess he was telling himself he didn't want to be in a relationship, and then however it happened, it just kind of happened. And again, maybe that's that, movie rom-com, out and about minding my business. I bumped into somebody, he dropped my papers and then he helped me pick it up and then we locked eyes. Maybe I think we kind of add a little bit of that in our idea of how we come across our spouse. But again, I don't think it necessarily works like that. I think, back to what you were saying as well too, I think there is a level, at least just a mindset. I might have said this in the video before as well too. Speaking for myself personally, like I'm in a stage right now where it's just like, I'm not actively looking for a relationship. However, I've told myself that I want to be wise enough in knowing when a good person is in front of me. You see what I'm saying? If that makes sense. Like I'm not out here like intentionally like, oh yeah, man, I did say this. I did say that I was gonna maybe increase my right. I'm gonna increase my intentionality, right? Be more intentional with the idea. I'm not opposed to the idea of, getting in a relationship. Of course, again, I've been, a lone wolf for some time. I have no shame in admitting that. But bettering myself, because I feel like, as I mentioned as well, there's prerequisites that come with it. I hope before you hop out there, assuming that you're going to find love, I hope you've been doing the work. So where are you at mentally? Where are you at emotionally? Where are you at physically? Things of that nature. Before you're fully hopping out there and saying that you want to join forces with somebody. I think it's rude, almost selfish, to have not been doing the work, but feeling like you want to join forces with somebody for them to maybe take on that baggage or take on that, whatever the case is. I need you emotionally stable. I need you mentally stable, physically stable, whatever the case is. Get as many boxes as you can checked off before you hop out into this dating pool and try to join forces with with an equal counterpart. Because again, if I'm operating at my best self, you're operating at your best self, and of course, there's multiple elements that go into that, right? So of course, we all have our the things that we look for in a partner, whatever the case is. We all have our checklist, I guess, whatever the case is. Some of the things that we want that partner to have, but I would hope that the high standard that you're maybe holding that partner to, I hope you hold those same standards for yourself as well too. Is basically what I'm saying. So he brings up a good point again. Very interesting topic. I don't know if I guess there's a little bit more that we can necessarily dive into, but I wanted to kind of just get some insight on that as well too. I think that as he mentioned it there as well too, Jay Shetty was basically saying exactly that. Like, one of the biggest lies, of course, is that it's just gonna happen on a whim. That we don't have to be intentional. That we don't have to be at least in the right mind frame to even welcome the idea of finding a counterpart. And he said it as well too. You might have maybe not intended to come across that person that you maybe came across at the bar, or at the coffee shop, whatever the case is. But you do have to be intentional when forming that relationship and put it in the work, whatever the case is. Not just when you first meet them, but while you have them as well too. That's a good thing as well too. I feel like a lot of people get comfortable once the courtship is done, once the the cat and mouse is done, once they finally get the person that they want. That's when people start to kick their feet up and get comfortable because, oh, the chase is over, the thrill is over, I already got them. Nah, I think that's a lot of mistakes that people make as well too, that I've seen from the outside looking in. That people get comfortable once they actually get the person that they worked so hard to actually get. I think that's where more of the work comes in now. It's like, all right, you got this person. How do you maintain them? How do we build a healthy bond and connection with communication and understanding that we're both pouring into each other's cup in a healthy manner, right? So again, very interesting topic. Of course, I'll be sure to leave the link down to the full video. Of course, you guys want to check this out. Of course, this is just a segment from a longer conversation. But the gist of it and what I got from it, of course, is that we should be intentional in finding love if that's something we want to do. Love is not going to just come like a Uber Eats delivery straight to your doorstep with you sitting on the couch, not putting in the actual effort. If love and relationships and marriage is something that you want for yourself, then what are you doing? What are you actively doing to see to it that you're increasing your chances of that actually happening to you? Are you going out? Are you on dating apps if you're a dating app person? Are you, having, cordial conversations with people, whatever the case is, to get a feel of, how people, the things that you like, the things that you don't like. I feel like, again, there's prerequisites that must happen before joining forces with anybody, of course, but once the mindset is established and you are already like, okay, I'm ready to find love. I am ready to, and then some people will say, well, I've been done this, man. I'm still not finding anything. Some people would say, I know this already, man. I'm out here. I'm at the drawing boards. I'm in the dating pool. I'm swimming, and there's nothing out here. I'm drowning. And I hear you. It's not easy. I feel like just the world is changing, so relationship dynamics are changing. I feel like there's a lot of elements that we could say, social media, dating app culture. There's a lot of things that we could probably fine-tune and saying is the cause of why dating is so hard within young, old, whatever the demographic, Gen Z, millennials, whatever the case. It feels like I've seen that as a growing trend, that people are having a harder and harder time to find just civil companionship. But again, of course, I do think that's something that we have to be intentional with, and both parties would have to put in equal work to maintain those healthy relationships. Of course, those are my thoughts, folks. Of course, I want to hear yours down in the comment section below. As always, the likes, the comments, the subscribes are all greatly appreciated. I will catch you guys on the next one.